The Galactic Conclave Chamber was a study in silent judgment. On the floating pedestal at its center, the being known as the Defendant stood, its multifaceted eyes dim. Across from it, a prosecutor, a willowy entity of crystalline fronds, gestured with a sharp, final motion. The verdict glowed above them all, a single merciless glyph. Extermination. It was not an unusual ruling. The defendant was a warrior from a species whose name translated roughly as the stalkers in the deep. Their conquest of the gentle, aquatic Tolan had been swift and total. The Conclave, a coalition of 100 advanced species, had a prime law. Civilizations that uplifted themselves to the stars carried the sacred responsibility of peace. Preemptive, aggressive warfare was the one unforgivable crime. The punishment was collective and absolute. The Stalker fleet was already debris. Now their homeworld was next. The chamber's various delegates offered no dissent. The insectoid Kavix had suffered under similar aggressors. The gaseous collective of the Solan Drift remembered lost colonies. Justice was clear, clean, and cold. Then, a single console lit up on the human delegation's bench. The human ambassador, a man with graying hair and calm eyes, pressed the request to speak panel. A ripple of mild curiosity flowed through the chamber. Humans were the newest members, barely a century into the fold. They were known for their unsettling resilience and puzzling emotionalism. But they had never challenged a conclave verdict. The delegation from Earth seeks recognition, the human said, his voice steady in the universal translator. The presiding elder, a being of slow light and deep time, pulsed with a patient azure glow. Speak, but the judgment is final. We do not challenge the judgment upon the military apparatus or the ruling council of the Stalkers, the human began. The crime is evident. Our query regards the sentence of planetary extermination. We ask for its commutation. A wave of palpable shock silenced the room. The prosecutor's fronds vibrated with high-frequency disagreement. You ask for mercy? For these? They showed none. Their biosignature scans of the Tolan homeworld showed no military capability. They proceeded anyway. This is the law. The law is correct, the human agreed. But it is applied to an entire species. Billions of lives. Among them, the young who had no choice in their leaders' decisions. The civilians who may have had no knowledge of the true nature of the war. The artists, the engineers, the teachers. Are they all warriors? They are of the warrior culture, chimed in the Kavix delegate, its mandibles clicking. The taint is in the gene, in the society. To leave them is to allow the weed to regrow. We have seen it before. The human ambassador stood. Earth's history is written in similar judgments. We have, in our darkest hours, declared entire peoples irredeemable. We called it justice, or necessity, or cleansing. Each time, we later recognized it for what it was, a failure of imagination, a surrender to our own fear and rage. We swore to ourselves, upon entering this community of stars, that we would not be silent if such a choice was presented again. The stalker on the pedestal had been still, accepting its fate. Now it turned its head, its complex eyes seeking the source of the unfamiliar voice. It saw a soft-skinned, bipedal creature, physically unimpressive. It could not comprehend the words, but the tone was not hostile. What would you have us do? The presiding elder's light had shifted to a cooler, skeptical scion. The threat must be neutralized. Their technology is to be dismantled. Their capacity for war must end. Then let us end that capacity, the human said. Not their lives. Impose a quarantine, a guardianship. Disarm them completely. Monitor their communications. But allow them to live. Allow them to learn another way. A derisive chitter came from the assembly. Teach a predator to graze? The prosecutor intoned. It is not in their nature. How do you know? The human's voice gained a firmer edge. A century ago, you said the same of us. You scanned our history, saw the wars, the cruelty, and debated if we should be preemptively contained. You found our art, our philosophy, our capacity for sacrifice and compassion alongside the violence. You gave us a chance. We are asking you to extend that same chance. He tapped his console. A complex schematic floated above him. We propose a mission. A human-led oversight team will descend to their main population center. We will implement the disarmament, install the monitoring systems, and establish a dialogue. We will take responsibility for their rehabilitation. They will kill your team the moment you land, the Kavik stated bluntly. They might try, the human conceded. We are prepared for that. But we believe they will see the truth. Their fleet is gone. Their leaders are gone. We are not coming as conquerors, but as custodians, offering a path to continued existence. The debate that followed was the most heated in the conclave's recent memory. Arguments of security, precedent, and moral philosophy clashed. Through it all, the human delegate stood firm. His proposal, a stubborn, fragile shield against the galaxy's cold logic of retribution. Finally, weary of the discord, the presiding elder pulsed a brilliant white. The human proposal is unprecedented. The conclave will put it to a vote. But know this, human, your species will bear the full burden of this choice. If this fails, if a single warship is ever built by this species again, the responsibility for all the blood they spill will be on your hands, and your own world's membership will be revoked. The human ambassador merely nodded. Understood? The vote was close, but it passed. Mercy, by the slimmest of margins, was granted. The extermination fleet was ordered to stand down. The human landing craft, a simple, rugged vessel, settled on the landing field of the Stalker's primary city. The world was a place of sharp angles and deep shadows. As the ramp lowered, the human team, clad in environmental suits but visibly unarmed, stepped out. Before them stood a ragged line of Stalker warriors, the planet's remaining militia. They were wounded, desperate, and armed with projectile weapons. Their leader, a scarred veteran, raised his weapon. Aiming at the figure at the front of the human group, the same ambassador. Now in a protective suit, the ambassador slowly, deliberately, removed his helmet. The thin, alien air burned his lungs, but he stood straight. He then unbuckled the front of his suit, exposing the simple fabric of his clothing underneath. He held his empty hands out to his sides. A tense silence stretched. The Stalker warrior's claw tightened on the trigger. The ambassador did not flinch. He simply looked at the warrior, his expression one of exhausted empathy, not defiance. Then something broke. The warrior's weapon trembled. A low, guttural sound escaped him, not a war cry, but a shuddering, helpless keen. It was a sound of loss, of despair, of the shattering of an entire worldview. He dropped his weapon. It clattered on the hard ground, the sound echoing in the stillness. One by one, the other warriors let their weapons fall. The sound was like falling rain. The ambassador walked forward, stopping before the weeping Stalker leader. He did not touch him, knowing the cultural significance of such an act might be misunderstood. He simply stood there, present, sharing the same painful air. "We are not here to rule you," the human said, the translator box on his chest converting his words into soft, clicking Stalker tones. "We are here to help you live." The mission was long and difficult. There was distrust and setbacks and moments of danger. But the humans worked. They helped dismantle weapon factories and convert them to water purification plants. They shared agricultural techniques to ease food shortages. They showed medical knowledge, treating the wounded of both sides. And slowly, They talked. They showed images of Earth's own painful history, of ruins and rebuilding, of wars and subsequent weary peace. They introduced concepts the stalker culture had suppressed: mediation, cooperation, empathy. They found, buried beneath millennia of militaristic dogma, ancient stalker art, delicate, swirling patterns etched in stone that spoke of a love for beauty, long forgotten. The stalker who had wept on the landing field became a key intermediary. He was not a leader of the old way, but a bridge to a new one. One day, he asked the human ambassador a question that had haunted him. Why? He clicked, his large eyes fixed on the human. Your conclave? They wished us dead. You were safe. Why stand before a weapon for us? The ambassador looked out over the city, where joint teams were now constructing a new school. Because, he said slowly, mercy is not a sign of weakness. It is the hardest kind of strength. It is easy to destroy an enemy. It is infinitely harder to try and make them into something else. But that is the only way any of us ever truly move forward. My people learned this through great sorrow. We could not let the galaxy repeat our mistake. Years later, the stalker world, now under the guardianship of Earth, was a different place. The quarantine was still in effect. The monitors still watched, but the fear was gone. The conclave observed, with a mixture of awe and lingering disapproval, the impossible unfolding. The human ambassador, now older, stood once more in the conclave chamber. The presiding elder's light was a warm, gold hue. The probationary review for the stalker species is complete, the elder announced. The reports show no military resurgence. Their applications for interstellar communication are for cultural and scientific exchange only. The threat is neutralized. The elder's light focused on the human. Your gamble succeeded. You have shown the conclave a new form of